Hello, a warm welcome to you. This is Platform. I'm Ruth Aguela. Everyone you know needs access to health, food, clothing, and shelter. But unfortunately, there are still millions of people out there around the world who do not have access to these necessities. As important as these rights are, so also is the issue of human rights. Human rights are basic rights. The concept of human rights allows people to speak up when they experience abuse in any form. When an individual's right is infringed upon, it is only right for that person to seek redress. In Nigeria, the National Human Rights Commission Amendment Act 2010 has conferred on the Commission its powers with respect to promotion and protection of human rights, investigation of alleged violation of human rights, and enforcement of decisions. Also, part of its mandate is to create an enabling environment for extrajudicial recognition, treaty obligations, and provide a forum for public enlightenment and dialogue on human rights issues. Now, its vision is to be the foremost, national human rights institution in the world by entrenching a culture of respect for human rights and promoting national values built on principles of democracy, accountability, transparency, and respect for the rule of law. But with various reports on violation of human rights around the country, you ask, is the Commission upholding its mandate effectively? Well, our focus on Platform today is upscaling the tenet of citizens' rights in Nigeria. And our guest is the Executive Secretary, National Human Rights Commission, Barrister Anthony Ojukwu, SAN. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right. And let me take you through a bit of his profile. Anthony Ojukwu, SAN, was appointed the Executive Secretary of the Commission in April. That was in 2018. Now, prior to his appointment, he has had a distinguished career with the Commission spanning over 2 decades. He has held several positions and was at various times the Director in charge of Monitoring Department, Protection and Investigation, Legal Services, Protection and Monitoring. Mr. Ojukwu has made sterling contributions to the strengthening of rule of law, human rights and democracy in Nigeria, as well as spearheading key electoral and justice sector reforms. He has deepened the Commission's protection mandate and served as the chairman of several investigation panels, some of which sexual and gender-based violence in Nigeria, the reform of Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigeria Police, and Special Investigation Panel on Military Shiite Clash in Kaduna State. He has also been at the forefront of advocacy for the rights of the elderly in Nigeria. Now, this one he holds very dearly to his heart. We'll be talking about that much later. Mr. Ojukwu holds a Master's of Law degree and a Bachelor's of Law. He has a strong commitment for community service, through which he has provided socio-legal services to the poor and vulnerable. A philanthropist, you are. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, we have a panelist in the studio, our correspondent in charge of covering activities of the Commission, Amarachukwu Omenka.
Thanks for having me.
For joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Now, Mr. Ojukwu, there's a whole lot when we look at human rights issues in Nigeria. Sometimes it beats my imagination to see how violation of rights, is being taken for granted to some extent. In as much as the Commission, is doing all it can to ensure that the rights of citizens are well protected, there are still some loopholes here and there that, people who don't understand what it takes, to have their rights protected still suffer. Now, if you want to paint a picture for Nigeria, what would be your assessment as regard protection of the rights of citizens?
Thank you very much for the kind words about me, and then also the questions you've asked. Well, protection of human rights in Nigeria is obviously work in progress.
Yes.
And I think, for instance, now the Commission is in 36 states of the country.
Okay.
Unlike before, we started with only 6 states, the 6 zonal headquarters, and then we spread out about 22 states, but now we're in 36 states. So at least Nigerians, the 36 states, have a nearby place that they can access the commission to make complaints about their rights. That is one. Now, also, with democracy, at least everybody is able to access his right and speak about his rights. This was not the case before.
Yes.
Before democracy, it was military regime, where, in fact, the first thing during the military regime is to prohibit the Chapter 4 of the Constitution, where you have fundamental rights. So
yes,
you can't even talk about it. However, now, at least even the courts have, put there the fundamental human rights enforcement rules, which is meant to accelerate the ease with which people can take issues to court concerning violation of their rights. Of course, we are no longer in those Nadoko days where even members of civil society had to run out of the country because they were persecuted for standing up to government for human rights. The press is free in this country.
the press really free.
No, the press is free.
Okay.
because if any press man today is stopped from carrying out his duties or his right is violated, he can challenge it in court.
Yes.
Because you cannot have a situation where there is total absence of violation of human rights. But the point is, if your rights are trampled upon, do you have the access to challenge it and get a remedy?
Which is the way forward?
So the way forward is that we should keep on preaching the message of human rights so that more people get aware. Because of the long period of military rule, a lot of people have accepted these things as a way of life. So when it happens to them, no complaints. That is how things are. But now, the duty we have now, and which the commission is doing in collaboration with the media, and I think we are doing fairly well on that, is that we are bringing the message to the doorsteps of Nigerians to realize that no, what has been happening in the past was not normal. Right now, if there's domestic violence, for instance, if there is sexual and gender-based violence, if you are arrested by the police, you can go somewhere and get an assistance.
Yes.
That for me is forward-looking, is hope-rising, is different from the situation before where you are even afraid, you cannot even talk about it. So for me, it's not yet Uhuru, but there is the commitment. There is a national institution now for promotion and protection of human rights. So, and there are so many NGOs, very vibrant civil society organizations in this country that are all in this issue of promotion and protection of human rights. So, there's hope for better protection of human rights in the country.
So we'll break down some of these issues that has to do with the protection of human rights one after the other. But Omenka, you want to comment, so go ahead.
So how can you assess the rate of human rights compliance in Nigeria?
The rate of compliance is not yet 100%. However, I give you an instance. Now, you remember during the NSAS protests, a lot of rights issues came up, and this became an issue of national concern. It wasn't only the National Human Rights Commission that realized that there is a problem here. Every citizen of this country was on the same page on this. Even the government itself, because it was the government that directed that all the violations during the NSAS protest should be investigated.
Yes.
So it's heartwarming, and we have concluded our investigations. We have indicted those indicted and recommended those to be prosecuted, those to be dismissed, those to be downgraded, those to be disciplined in several ways. We have apologized. That's the first time, a government agency is apologizing for violation of human rights of people. So this is new. Again, we have paid compensation to those who we feel their rights were violated. We're not saying that is all, but we're saying these are monumental steps taken in this country to address the issue of human rights. And we can't take it for granted because it has never been done before.
True.
Yeah.
So this is something that can encourage citizens.
Okay.
In the past, people started to be violated and say, nothing will happen. Let me just rest. But now, these are uprising that if your right is violated, please speak out. And that will be the beginning. Look at the issue of sexual and gender-based violence.
That's a big one, actually.
Which was taken for granted that
Yes.
you violate women anyhow you like, you violate young girls anyhow you like, and nobody was ready to take it up. But we have been able to have a panel of investigation on complaints on sexual and gender-based violence.
And the good news is that you have chaired some of these panels.
I was the chair of the panel.
Yeah, so we're getting first-hand information, but the issue of protection of women's rights when it comes to sexual, gender-based violence, it's still something that is relatively...
Certainly we are
still
not
there.
yet. Yes, certainly.
We're not there yet. And, you know, what beats my imagination is the fact that most women who suffer from these atrocities don't even understand that their rights are being violated.
Exactly.
Yeah, so what is the commission doing in that regard? Because a lot of women are sufferers. A lot of women have died without getting justice.
Exactly.
And many, you know, there's this conspiracy of silence. They can't speak out.
Honestly, whenever I look at the situation, I feel like saying that our society is so permissive, you know, on things like this. It's like a young girl is violated in the family circles. Everybody's more interested in protecting their uncle or
and the family.
Discrimination, the stigma, and
nobody
all of that.
thinks of what is going to happen to this young girl forever. Her entire life is messed up.
Yes.
And she'll be suffering in silence. Her interest is not her interest of what happens to her is the more interest is in protecting. Let us not disgrace the uncle. Let us not disgrace the father. Let us not disgrace. Do you know what I'm talking about? This young girl goes suffering in silence. But now it is changing. A lot of people look at Ochanya's case. You know, the people concerned have been convicted. Even the auntie that was supposed to do supervision, that was supposed to overlook this girl and was rather there, and this girl's right was violated, which led to her death. The auntie has had to pay for it. That's the level of responsibility we are talking about. You know, this was not the case before. You know, so I think there's a new regime for protection of human rights in the country. And don't forget that after COVID, the SDBV spiked, and the government recognized this, and the Federal Executive Council, led by the Minister of Women Affairs, then Pauline Talin, had to pass a kind of resolution that this is now a national emergency. You know, this is something, and an interministerial committee will consider for the first time, headed by the Honorable Attorney General and co-chaired by the Federal Minister of Women Affairs. Of course, I'm a member of that committee. Or to see how, as a government, efforts can be galvanized to face this issue of, sexual and gender-based violence frontally.
Just before Minka comes in, I know he wants to ask a follow-up to that. You know, Mr. Ojukwu, you agree with me that we have laws. I'm not saying that's not been progress recorded. We have the VAP Act. Exactly. We have the Sexual Offences Act. Exactly. We have the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. Exactly. We have the Penal Code. We have the Criminal Code. We have a lot of, laws that are against this SGBV. And yet, people are still in the dark talking about these women. What would you say is one of the major challenges, aside, for victims who want to withdraw because they want to protect the image of their families and all of that? Is it that we're not getting enough dispensation of justice, at the final stage? What is the problem?
I think there's more to it than just the willingness to hold people accountable is really lacking. I don't know what is a cultural thing, like I said, because the starting point is reporting. Now, the society is structured in such a way that the women are stigmatized. So, in the first place, you are brought up to feel that if you report, nothing will happen. or people will be going about pointing at you and saying, this is the person who reported the husband or the uncle, and so on and so forth. So instead of you being the person, you become a villain.
Yes.
You become
It's unfortunate.
it's very, very unfortunate.
Yeah.
So in that kind of crime, you report to the police will say, oh, go back,
And
it's a family
reconcile.
matter. In my office, women come to report cases of sexual and gender-based violence. We start action. Midway, they come back and say, you see, my family is settling it. I want to withdraw my complaint. The same problem with the police. A lot of police, when we talk to them, have complained that they start prosecuting a case of sexual and gender-based violence. Midway, the complainant says, I'm no longer interested. And if the person doesn't come to give evidence, how far can you go in the prosecution?
Okay, so if someone have a complaint to make, how would that person channel his or her complaint to the commission?
We have several ways of making a complaint to the office. You can write a letter of the complaint. You can come, if you cannot write, you can come physically to an HRC office and somebody will take down your complaint. You can send an email to us, and right now you can in fact make a phone call.
There are numbers.
There are numbers
that
can be called. We have a call center now where you can make a call, and if your call is received, some people will record it and then put it into the system, and then we commence investigation.
Are these numbers out there?
Yeah, the numbers are out there. I don't have the GSM one, off my head, but then the short code is 6742. It was just launched about 2 weeks ago. I understand that right now what you can receive there are text messages, but it's being upgraded to take phone calls. Yes.
Okay, when there are investigation of complaints, mediation, cancellation, for conflict of interest, maybe resolving a conflict, or so to say, oftentimes there is this delay, for getting justice, which discourages a victim whose right has been infringed on. Are there certain strategic areas the Commission is looking at to ensure that the process is seamless? So are you looking at strategic ways of ensuring that this is done seamlessly?
Yeah, actually, because of the challenges in enforcing decisions, what the law has done now is to provide that if the Commission takes a decision, that decision can be registered in the court, in the High Court, as if it's a decision of the High Court. And then the court system can be used to enforce it. However, I must say that most of the decisions we take in the Commission, people obey. In fact, I would say we have more than 95% compliance. And the enforcement of the decisions of the Commission to the court are still being worked out, the process. We are still dialoguing with the judiciary on how this can be seamless. For instance, how do you make the application? Is it by affidavit? How do we bring this to the consciousness of the judges? How do we bring this to the consciousness of even lawyers who are going to help claimants to take this matter to court, and so on and so forth? And we have visited the National Judicial Institute, and we are taking this process further. However, we also use alternative dispute resolution to resolve some complaints, especially if it concerns children, family matters, and so on and so forth. And if resolutions are reached in that amicable form, you find out that people are part of the solution. So obedience is very, very high to those kind of system. And we also use fair hearing processes. We cannot take any decision behind anybody. So the process involves a fair hearing process where your complaint is brought before you, and you are given an opportunity to defend yourself. And then you go into the mediation session if there's need to mediate, and then a solution is reached. So people follow through how the decisions on their matters are reached. So the tendency to now say, no, I will not comply, are very, very low.
Yeah,
You know.
why I asked that question is the process. When certain persons think of how long the process is going to take, before you get justice, it can be discouraging.
It can be discouraging
Yeah.
because fair hearing processes have to be like that. For instance, if you invite a couple for mediation and the couple they're not all staying in Abuja,
That's a challenge.
it's either you are going to give the other party a flight ticket, or the person has to get off where the person is working, and
accommodation.
and human rights work.
Is that the responsibility of the commission?
That's the problem. If the person says, I don't have money now to come, I'll wait for when my salary is paid.
You can't force the
As
person
the Human Rights
Right.
Commission, you need to understand that is a real situation. You're not going to say, no, you must come today.
Okay.
So you see. So you cannot, while trying to protect human rights, also violate human rights.
How do
Unlike,
you know the person is saying the truth? How do you verify that is the truth?
well, at least before you start doubting, you give the person an option of doubt. If it now continues, then you cannot say, it's like this person is now playing pranks. This is not like maybe other organizations that are trying to do human rights work.
Okay.
But while they do it, you can see that they get involved in a lot of violations because they don't understand these basic principles. Justice may be slow, but the rule is that instead of finding one innocent man guilty, it is better to leave 10 guilty people free. So, but those who are not groomed in the principles of human rights and trying to do human rights work, at times they get angry, for instance, and maybe they get through to the people, and then they don't respect their confidentiality, and so on and so forth. So, but for us as a human rights institution, we cannot, while we're trying to protect human rights, also start violating the human rights of people. So we must give you the benefit of doubt, must respect your dignity, and then your privacy, and also the need to do other things in life, because everything is not only the claim against you in the commission. You still have to live your life. You still have to work.
Okay, so I want to know your relationship with other partners.
I would say very perfect relationship. We have a large partnership among the civil society that collaborate with us. In fact, since I came into office, we've done partnerships with more than 250 civil society organizations, all coming to us to do a memorandum of understanding so that we can expand the work. To expand the work as much as possible, because we know we cannot do the work alone. We must work with civil society. In fact, the emphasis we have on partnerships was clearly manifested during our Human Rights Week, which just ended last week on the 10th of December. We devoted 2 full days on NHRC Civil Society Forum. And those forums were forums of partnership between civil society and the Commission in the area of civil liberties, in the area of elections, in the area of women, in the area of business and human rights, and in the area of sustainable development, and so on and so forth. And these are all full sessions in their own rights. And that will tell you the level of partnership the Commission has with civil society organizations in the country in the cause of promotion and protection of human rights.
In as much as we're looking at the protection of human rights, they are the human rights defenders. Now, those who will stand in the gap for those who their rights have been trampled upon. Oftentimes we see that, when they're trying to fight for the rights of others to be protected, their own rights are being violated. They face a number of high risks.
Challenges, yeah.
Yes. What is the situation in Nigeria?
The work of human rights defenders all over the world is never an easy one. And even we in the Commission, we look at ourselves as human rights defenders. Even the media. If you look critically at the work of the media, they are human rights defenders.
Yes.
Because a lot of human rights of people, the media would never allow them to be pushed under the carpet. They keep on making sure. Look at, let's say, the issue of kidnapped victims. Most of us could have forgotten the Chibok girls, the Baptist school girls, the train something. But you see the media will make sure that those things never, are never swept under the carpet. That's the work of a human rights defender, to make sure that people's rights can never be forgotten. They stick to it. They make sure it's on the front burner. They will not allow anything to be done. And so it's a difficult task. Now, there are also real frontline defenders whose life are even at risk.
Yeah.
Some of them will have helped to secure a safe place for them to stay, because some of them are physically threatened. Like some of my staff, when they go out there to protect people, they are arrested and put behind bars.
Really?
We have to come to bail them out.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you introduce yourself at the police station, and they say, we don't believe your ID card, they put you behind bars. We have gone to people's homes to settle, and the man says we have come to his house to do what and he'll lock us in. We have to come and get rescue, to rescue our people. I have personally been threatened and told, look, God, this one you're doing is only one bullet. And I laughed over it. I reported it, and then I carried on with my life. A lot of these things come to a human rights defender. But you only live your life once. If it goes, it goes. But you can never go until God has decided that you go. So the work of human rights defenders are difficult, especially in our own climes, where even for security agencies, it is difficult for them. It is not easy for security agencies because the infrastructure to detect crime is lacking. Can you imagine if we had ordinary CCTV camera on every street or in every home? That means all the crimes, the police will have a second chance to replay what happened, be able to know who were involved, how they came in, but it's not there. Once you commit any crime here now and sneak out of this room, you're disappeared into the thin air. It's only now we are conscious of our national identification number. Before, nobody, in fact, if you do anything and go and hide in one village, you can stay there for another 2 years. Nobody will know you're there. So all those things make crime fighting and investigation very, very difficult. So I would urge that in order to also better protect human rights in the country, that this infrastructure are put in place, and it will help both the law enforcement agents and us also, when we are doing the investigation, to be able to do proper investigations and be able to pinpoint who is innocent and who is not innocent.
And you're not collaborating with the international community, because the part of the human rights defenders, there's a declaration of that, and the establishment of special rapporteurs to give situation reports to the United Nations and the African Union. What is the level of synergy at that level?
Certainly, our work cannot happen without cooperation with the international community. Part of our mandate also is to help government to fulfill its international obligations. And what are these international obligations? The contents of these treaties. We must continue to help government to report. Like just today, we had a consultation on the Universal Periodic Review, which is coming up in 2024. We are now asking that the 230 recommendations which were accepted by Nigeria in 2019, we are saying, how far have we gone? And forward-looking, what is our expectation that by 2024, what measures would we have put in place to make sure that those challenges and gaps noticed in 2013 have been met up? So all these kind of things you're doing, you are trying to make sure that our international obligations are kept, because Nigeria, as a member of the human rights community in the world, must be seen to be working hard to make sure that, because the primary duty of promotion and protection of human rights belongs to the government of Nigeria.
Okay, let me hold your thoughts there as we take this break. We're back to continue with the conversation. Stay tuned.
Pleased that the Buhari-led administration has made remarkable progress,
like Lafia Transmission Station nearing completion. Africa does not need charity, but partnerships that will promote the adequate investment
with the cooperation of all.
Sharing firsthand the experiences of reporters on the field as they bring to you weekly the beauty of Nigeria's diverse culture and the economic potentials therein. The Correspondent, development through the eye of the grassroots, showing every Monday at 1:30 p.m. on the network service of the NTA, with a repeat broadcast on NTA News 24 and NTA International. Join us.
Now, what could make someone set out on a journey and not get to his or her destination? Now, imagine a victim who cannot reach out to these responders, who doesn't even have the phone to reach out. Hello, thank you very much for joining us on platform. I'm Ruth Agwe.
And the girl, especially if the girl is a minor, she's not yet 18 years, if she gets pregnant, realize that such girl is sent out of school and the boy is left in school.
Just to pick the call.
So how much sensitization is the FRS?
I don't agree. A lot of people are just deaf.
Welcome back. We're still talking upscaling the tenets of citizens' rights in Nigeria. Omenka, you want to go ahead with a question?
The 10th of every December is celebrated as International Human Rights Day. So just last week, you had a lot of activities. What is your assessment?
The Human Rights Week last week was the best ever celebrated by us, at least since I came into office, because it was a gala of activities trying to make sure that we scanned the entire climate of protection of human rights in the country, so that we can forge a human rights focus for the country next year. I mean, the elections is by the corner.
Yes.
So we started with the council meetings, then we had the CSO forums, then we met with the international community, the donor community, the UN system, and then we also met with the business community, those who are doing business, and we say it has to be business and human rights. Businesses should also have human rights at the back of their mind. And then the big one on the 10th, we had the arenas walk with messages from the UN Secretary General and the High Commissioner for Human Rights. And then we had for the first time what we call a town hall on human rights for presidential candidates. You will agree with me that we need to make human rights an issue for the elections.
Yes.
Because election is a human rights issue. The right to participate and vote and be elected is a human right.
Yeah.
So why are politicians not discussing about human rights during the elections? They're only talking about economy, security. But what really affects the real value of humanity is dignity and respect for rights. Like this year's International Human Rights Day theme is dignity, freedom, and access to justice for all. And if you look critically at the issue of human dignity, at the issue of freedom, and the issue of access, you find out that every other right is dancing around this category of rights. So that is what adds value to humanity. That is what adds value to governance, the good governance. So we insist that politicians, our leaders, must understand human rights at their fingertips. Can you imagine if you have a presidential candidate? Like some presidential candidates did not come. So what they're telling us is that they don't value human rights, that human rights of Nigerians will not be their priority when they're elected.
That's your word against that.
And that would be terrible. That would be because if they had placed value in it, one would have expected that they would have been there. Now, how would you think that if people are protesting, a president who doesn't understand human rights may say, go and shoot them? Why are they protesting? If we are saying women participation in politics, if we are saying affirmative action, a president who doesn't understand human rights will not appreciate it. So women are going to be domestically violated. Their SGB rights will be there, it wouldn't be appreciated. If we have a president that doesn't understand human rights, there will be congestion of prisons. And if you are preferring solutions to that, it will not be priority for him or her. If we are talking about the congestion of the courts, provide more services, provide more infrastructure for more judges, help judges to maybe digitize their systems. He will not appreciate that this is what adds value to man. If we are saying that people don't have food or education, for instance, that this is a basic right, that if you don't give people education, to govern them will even be more difficult.
True.
Why do you think you have so many people flocking into Boko Haram? I'm sure you won't have graduates. It will be difficult to have graduates who are inside Boko Haram. I can tell you that. If Boko Haram is 1 million people, you will not have up to 20 graduates amongst them. These are people who have not gone to school. So when you look at these things from favor point of view, unlike as a right, then you discriminate. You won't make it a priority. In your scale of priorities, it will be last. And that is why we are where we are. So we think that human rights should be a major issue for anybody who wants to rule this country. And we are going to go down the states. We are going to have this town hall on human rights for the governors in the states. Because if the state government does not complete the federal government, there will be a problem. And then, of course, we also had a dinner and awards night where we congratulated people who, like journalists who have been, working with us, promoting the cause of human rights. We also honored some police officers because we don't only condemn what they're doing. If there are some of them that have done well, we say so. So we had to give awards on police because in inspection of police stations and so on and so forth, we discovered that some police officers are doing extremely well. So we had to come out to say, give them an award, to compliment and encourage others also to do how they're doing.
You had an engagement with some stakeholders.
Yes.
How do you think that will help to improve on the national human rights, human rights protection of human rights in the country?
It can, because what we did today is looking at the Universal Periodic Review. The Universal Periodic Review is a kind of a peer review mechanism by all members of the United Nations family. It's a state's affair where countries peer review each other. So you peer review me when it's my own turn. When it's your own turn, you do otherwise. And it's to make states comfortable, but as well as setting a standard of performance that you have set for yourselves. It's not targeted at letting anybody down, but it's targeted at encouraging people to make progressive improvement in provision of protection and promotion for human rights in the various countries. So people are reviewed every 4 years. So Nigeria was last reviewed in 2019. We are due for another review in 2024, by January, February 2024. So now is the time to say, okay, there were 290 recommendations made towards Nigeria. Nigeria willingly accepted 230 of the recommendations, and of course had reservations on the remaining ones. But for instance, those were voluntarily accepted recommendations by Nigeria. So if you are voluntarily accepted to do something, you should be able to do it. Okay. So, but our duty as the Commission is to help Nigeria fulfill its international obligations. So it's our duty, now that Nigeria has committed to these 230, to help Nigeria. At least remind you, look, we made a commitment, we need to put things in place so that we'll not go there and say, we forgot. So what we did today is a wake-up call, But luckily, the federal government has also responded. The federal government has already set up an interministerial committee on the Universal Periodic Review, which was inaugurated by the Secretary of the Government about 2 or 3 months ago. That interministerial committee has already started action. It has approved its work plan, and right now I think he's trying to put together resources to start implementation of the work plan. And that work plan will take it up to the time when it's supposed to submit its report, which is like 6 months before the Investor Periodic Review on Nigeria in 2024.
Okay, let's put the spotlight on certain special persons in the country. I'm talking about persons with disabilities and the elderly. I want you to marry this too, because oftentimes when people grow old, they tend to face one form of disability or the other. So what is being done, at the highest level to ensure that the rights of persons with disabilities who face different forms of discrimination in the society, and also the elderly, which I know that's one advocacy you hold dearly in your heart. So tell us what is going on in that regard.
Yeah, the issue of persons with disability and older persons is one which has been at the heart of the commission's work, because you see, these are vulnerable.
Yes.
And you must, if you are doing protection, you must prioritize vulnerable groups.
Yes.
Like children, the elderly, person with disability, women, and so on and so forth. So
why the men not being protected?
Well, men when they get old, of course, become vulnerable as well.
Okay.
And we need
just
protection.
on a lighter note. Go ahead.
We need protection when they get old. So first of all, we started with advocacy for the passage of a law for the establishment of an agency that will take care of persons with disability and older persons, and that has been done. We have a national commission for persons with disabilities now. We also have National Senior Citizen Center.
Yes.
And the idea is to have focused agency of government that all they'll be talking about every day is the protection of the rights of older persons or persons with disabilities. That having been done, for us as a commission, we also established a department for vulnerable groups.
Okay.
Before I came in, we used to have one department on protection, which was doing everything. But you see, we said no, we need to break it down so that particular and detailed attention can be given to this group. So we created a department for civil and political rights, department for economic, social, and cultural rights, department for women and children. Department for vulnerable groups. So women and children is a vulnerable group. We have zeroed in on them. Persons with disabilities is a vulnerable group. Older persons is a vulnerable group. We have them in the vulnerable groups department. And again, we are actively, a member of the working committee of the Global Alliance of the Network of National Human Rights Institutions on the issue of older persons. And through that platform, we have been engaging the UN to see, the open-ended working group on aging, to see how there can be a national, an international legislation, a convention. Like you have convention for women, you have convention for children. There should be a convention for older persons that can provide an international framework for the protection of rights of older persons. And we're very, very active in that group. We're hoping that very soon there will be an international legal instrument for the protection of rights of older persons as well.
Okay, you've mentioned children as part of this vulnerable group, and we have the Child Rights Act of 2003.
No, good news.
Okay.
It's not 34
Okay, thank you for that latest update.
2 more states to go.
Okay, great. Good news then.
In fact, when the Minister of Women Affairs was speaking yesterday, she's hoping that
every state.
So remaining 2 more states.
So there's hope.
There's hope.
Yeah,
so it's progress.
There's progress. But my question is, Mr. Ojukwu, as a father,
yes,
and you get to see a lot of children who face, inhumane treatment. It's so appalling and disheartening. There are no words to describe it. It's just so unfortunate that people will allow, children to be subjected to such act. I know it's something very dear to you, that it's not even you can't even imagine what that child is going through, the trauma the child is going through. What's the commission doing, to protect children like that? That is for those who we get to see, come out for help.
Honestly, like I said, the issue of protection of children and women is really very dear to the Commission's heart. Like I said, we have a special department for dealing with issues of women and children. Most of the mediations we do are also to deal with issues concerning, for instance, things like maybe provision of necessaries, making sure that children go to school, their school fees are paid by their parents, making sure that accommodation is provided for them, making sure that clothing is provided for them, making sure that they are not used for forced labor, making sure that they're not tortured. Because you see,
that's the torture part.
Is the one that is horrendous, because you see some children staying with their parents or uncles or aunties. They go through some burns, they go through some marks on their body, and all those kind of horrible things. Now, when we discover that kind of level of violation, then we must involve the police so that those people will be prosecuted and jailed for it. Now, if there are cases where maybe parents have failed to take care of them, provide accommodation, for instance, pay school fees, clothing, food, we do at times even force the man to be putting aside some money every month. At times, these monies are paid to the commission. The commission pays it to the lady, to the mother, to make sure that these children eat food, to make sure that their children's school fees are paid, to make sure that their hospital bills are paid. We go to that extent. So many, in all the states, we have cases like that. We all to protect children and also make parents realize that they have a primary responsibility for the protection of the children. And the point is, there's no need having more children than you can take care of. There are modern ways of reproductive health rights now. You can get assistance. You can.
Are they aware? Knowledge is power.
Yeah,
some of them don't even know access to
I can tell you that primary health care services by government agencies, by the Ministry of Health, are very, very open in the communities. There are primary health care centers. There are caregivers that go from house to house to create some of this awareness. When women go for antenatal now, it's a compulsory enlightenment for them on how to deal with some of this. At least any woman who has been pregnant and has gone to a hospital receives some kind of education on her reproductive health rights. So it's not a question of blank ignorance. Now we have the medical personnel in every maternity, in every hospital, and women must go to the maternity to be able to deliver their children. And so these services are there. However, I know at times some men are also obstacles. So the strategy now is also not only to talk to the women, to also talk to the men. Because if the man prevents the wife from using modern reproductive health services, there's nothing you can do. So it's good to carry along the men as well.
Okay.
So the level of enlightenment.
Yes, the level of enlightenment is not so high, because one, the level of education of the people, the poverty is a big issue. If somebody is poor, it reduces the level of access to most of these things. In the first place, maybe you need a radio or you need a television. The person may not have it. Two, if things are very difficult for you at the village level, you may be working for 24 hours. That if they call for a town hall meeting where some of these messages are passed, you may be in the farming, and you will not be able to get the information.
Okay, we're rounding off. Just in a few seconds, I want you to tell me about the vision for the commission in the aspect of ensuring that every citizen in Nigeria, the rights are protected.
Our hope, our vision is that the knowledge of human rights will be brought to the doorsteps of every Nigerian to realize that they have a dependable commission that can assist them, and that if they have any human rights challenges, they can access us and be rest assured that they will get assistance.
Thank you very much, Anthony Ojukwu, SAN, the Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission. Thank you very much for your time and educating. Thank you for educating Nigerians on knowing their rights. It's very important. And keep up the good work.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right. Omenka Amarachukwu, thank you for your contributions on the program.
Thank you.
All right, we've been talking about upskilling the tenets of citizens' rights in Nigeria. Know your right. You have the right to education, right to health, right to fair hearing. As a woman, you have the right to speak out when you're being tortured. That's Platform. I'm Ruth Aguele. Bye.